Yo, what's good? Welcome to Observing the Process. If you are new here and want to stay up to date with these podcasts, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed to my channel. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on any episodes, hit the bell to turn on notifications. You can also join the conversation by sharing your thoughts below in the comments and leaving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thanks and enjoy the show. I just wrapped up a podcast with Camden Hauge. Camden is a successful business owner who I really admire, so I was really happy to have her on the show. Camden has been in Shanghai for 7 or so years now and owns 3 F&B restaurants. She also has her own events agency, which is super impressive to me. I really enjoyed talking to Camden about how wonderful Shanghai and China is. Please welcome Camden Hauge.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
3,
It's easy if you
2,
try, Dick.
1. Okay, we're live. Camden, I'm so happy we got the chance to do this.
Hi.
Thanks for coming by. You got here on your bike, right?
Yes, it was a treacherous cycle ride, but really beautiful day out, so it was all good.
Yeah, we were just talking about like the pollen's been so bad this year.
It's like raining. It gets in your eyes. It gets in your mouth. It's just a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get the goggles that kind of like suction cup to the face.
Red Baron style.
Red
No,
Baron.
it's badass.
What's Red Baron style?
Red Baron from Snoopy?
Snoopy,
From
no.
Charlie Brown?
Not from.
my
Oh,
gosh.
okay.
Yeah, when he pretends he's on his doghouse and he pretends to be a pilot.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he wears
yeah.
his little goggles and scarf. It's so cute.
Yeah, and he has
throwback.
like the doghouse.
Exactly. His doghouse
Yeah,
plane.
that's so good.
I'll pretend to be that when I'm cycling back.
Yeah. How long was the cycle? Where are you living in Shanghai right now?
I'm living on Jululu by Xiangyanglu, which is right near my spot Egg.
Oh, right.
My first restaurant. So I'm really selfish with my living situation and commute. I'm directly between my restaurants. So I'm kind of in the nexus. It makes life a lot easier.
Wow. Yeah, that's so convenient.
Yeah.
I'm on Fuxinglu, Maominglu. And
Oh, nice.
It's been like I've only been there for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's just
so
made the world so much more convenient here.
Yeah.
Because this, like, we're by Lujabong and it's not even that far, but being just that much closer makes you like accessible to so many different things.
I just love the French concession neighborhood because of all the trees and everything. It's a lot lower. It just feels a lot more pedestrian. Like you can walk around, more neighborhoody.
Yeah.
So I love that neighborhood. I used to live in Jing'an when I first moved here and it felt a lot more urban and I wasn't used to that kind of setting. So I liked moving down. It felt really good. Yeah.
Sweet. So you said you live right by Egg.
Yes.
Is that your first business that you did?
Technically, I guess the first one I did on my own, I started a project called Shanghai Supper Club about a year before that. So,
Shanghai Supper Club.
Yes. So I first arrived in Shanghai a little over 6 years ago now, which is crazy because my first contract was 6 months and now it's been 6 years.
That's the story of every expat.
Yes, exactly. So I got brought over from London. I was actually working in an advertising agency called Saatchi & Saatchi.
Saatchi & Saatchi.
And I had a great time with the agency in London. So much fun. Like my colleagues were amazing. The work was super creative. It was really interesting. But after about two and a bit years, I wanted to change and they offered me a job in the Shanghai office.
Oh, so you moved same company.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It made
That's-
life a little bit
That's
easier.
such a good transition because like
Exactly.
you'll have a network, like you're already just in something.
You know, it's funny because I thought it would make it a lot easier. And in fact, I was one of 2 people who spoke English on a daily basis when I first moved over.
Whoa. What
So
year did you move over?
This was 2012, 13.
Okay.
Oh God, my math.
That's such, like, I hear that's kind of like the golden days.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time to come over and I felt super privileged to be in such an incredible company here. But the working culture was very different. It was a lot more attuned to lower tier cities. So we were doing campaigns, big advertising campaigns for huge multinationals like Coca-Cola and Chivas. And so we had great clients, but a lot of the work we were doing was for lower tier cities, which
In China mostly?
in
or?
China, it was all in China. And
That's
so
it meant it was
a lot more didactic, like a lot more basic stuff. You know,
Oh.
instead of in London, we would run these crazy campaigns that were magic and flash mobs and interactive and immersive and, you know, buzzword. But they were like, you know, if you're talking about milk, let's say milk will change your life. Like milk is so creative. It'll make you an amazing person. Whereas this was like milk comes from a cow.
Wow. So
This is
you
real milk.
were just trying to get as basic as possible
Yes.
for these
Exactly.
Not tier 3. Were they tier 3 cities?
Tier 3 and down. We were
Wow.
actually doing 6.
So you guys were
down.
focusing on tier 3. That's
Exactly.
That's
Because they're
interesting.
huge companies. And, you know, the scale of China is that the market share is majority under tier 1 cities.
right. If you're going to look at a population base,
Exactly.
the majority
And
is
so you're
living
looking at
outside of these major
big
cities.
consumer brands, and you've just got to access as many people as possible. Because if each person in China buys one Coca-Cola, it's infinitely more than hitting up just tier 1 cities where they buy
Definitely.
it twice a month even.
Okay, so you were working for like multinational brands, and
Yeah.
as like your specific role was focusing on the tier 3, and would other people in the company focus on like tier 1? So the ads were different based on what.
No, it was all. Well, the ads would be different for sure, and we would run from you would focus on one client. So let's say I was working for Coca-Cola. I do ads all across China, but the majority of our focus was always under tier 1 because by that point, all of these international brands had already reached a saturation point where there was no longer a reason for them to focus on the first tier cities because people in Shanghai were already saying, Coca-Cola is boring now. We're going to go for some cool local or, maybe secondary brand because they've already experienced what Coca-Cola has to offer. Whereas if you're going for other cities, it's the first time they've had that kind of beverage. So
Did you get a chance to visit any of those cities?
a little bit. I traveled a lot in China my first year, which was really fun. A lot more for myself than for work. But I loved traveling in China and just figuring out all it has to offer. It's such an incredible country and so diverse.
Definitely.
It's crazy. Like when I first moved here, I didn't know if it was going to be monks living on the side of a mountain or like Blade Runner. And it's definitely somewhere in between.
It's somewhere in between because when you're in Shanghai, it is Blade Runner. And then when you go even an hour outside of city center Shanghai, you can chill with monks.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
It's so
I really
cool.
think it's beautiful.
I love, and even in the city, the diversity is amazing. Like you have super local streets and older people who are very much stuck in that kind of, older way of life, more simple way of life. But then you have every modern convenience, especially now. But it's amazing to see how much it's changed. Like the reason I opened Egg was actually because 6 years ago, there was no coffee place that you could go that also had food.
Definitely.
Which is mind blowing to think about now because over the past 4 years, now every single corner, there's a super hipster coffee shop that has like avocado toast and flat whites and, all that shit that you can get anywhere in the world now. So it's changed so much so fast.
Would you say it's changed for the better or the worse?
I think always for the better. I think a lot of people who've been here a long time, and I've only been here for 6.5 years. So to some people, I'm a baby here, but
to some people, you're a long
OG.
Long time OG. Yeah.
I wish. I mean, I think being here 15 years ago, it would have been really cool to see that change. But yeah, I think it's only gotten better. I think the city's a lot more livable now.
Yeah.
For people who have traveled a little bit more, it gives you more comforts of home if that's what you want. But it's also the fact that so many local kids are now doing their own projects instead of relying on foreigners to bring them the cool stuff.
Oh, so you're talking about like local Shanghai?
Yeah, like Chinese kids. Yeah.
Do you know of any in particular? I'm not even. I know friends who do their own like skate companies.
Yeah.
But for you, do you have any like local friends that you would want to shout out? Like I don't.
Oh God, putting me on the spot. Now I feel bad if I forget someone. I'm gonna neglect them.
Just one.
No, I mean, I think just in F&B, like now
F&B
that I've segued from advertising to food and beverage, which was always my love, always what I wanted to do. And Shanghai really gave me the opportunity to do that because there was such a gaping mouth for of opportunities and options to bring in. Since I started, I think I was part of like the third wave of people who'd come in and started restaurants that were trying to be global level. So the first wave is always like the Irish pubs, right? They're always the first ones in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're always the first one. There's no matter what weird random town you go to around the world, they will have an Irish pub.
It's an easy one to do. Yeah.
The Irish just get everywhere. Then the second wave was kind of the Austin Who's, the Kelly Lees, the Brad
Lee is a legend
Turleys.
for sure.
Yeah, they're all these guys who were educated. They might be Chinese by heritage, but they were born abroad and they were educated abroad. They came up in the kitchens abroad and then they came back to Shanghai came to Shanghai to bring what international food would be here.
Yeah.
I was part of the third wave, which is younger kids who are focusing on maybe not as well trained, but focusing on more niche places in the market, like an all day cafe or Ethiopian food or, something that's quite niche.
Sure.
But now it's a lot of locals. Like this is super cool to me to see that wave of food is cool, the food networkification of food culture, which happened in the West. Now it's finally reached here. Like the my chef at Bird is this 28, 29-year-old guy who was a surgeon because that's what his parents told him he had to do as a local Chinese kid from a decent family. Like you have to be a doctor or a lawyer.
That's your line.
You know? And after 6 years, he was like, fuck this. Like, this is depressing. I can't do this anymore. I want to be able to exercise my creativity. Yeah. And so he left and he did a cordon bleu course, and now he's cooking at Bird, and he's amazing. That's awesome. So Chris Ju is like the best. And there's so many younger guys like this now. Like Bei Chuan, this guy who has a restaurant in the Columbia Circle complex called Inkwood.
That's a good complex. It's, for some reason, it feels a little hidden, but it is a beautiful, like they have that pool there.
Exactly.
That's sunken. Do they fill that up, or does it?
They do. Yeah. It's filled. It was actually the country club from the 20s.
No way.
So it's a colonial country club that they converted. It was a wreck for a long period of time. And I went to see it when it was in construction, and it was super interesting to see how they took these old buildings and they're trying to make them more modern.
I really like how they preserved that because it's a shame to see some stuff not get preserved
for
here.
For sure.
That's one of my biggest gripes. Like we're in Xintiandi area right now. And on your way over, like within the past 4 years that I've been there, they've knocked down so many buildings to just build these skyscrapers. And I don't know, hopefully they preserve some of it, because I can understand like you need to knock down some stuff, but in my eyes, there could be a little more preservation.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's tough because from our point of view in the West, I think we've had a more organic cultural evolution, whereas for here, with the break in culture that the Cultural Revolution provided, the revolution chopped it from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way until the 80s, right? Whereas in the West and, you know, everywhere else, even in the East and Middle East, that they've had more of an evolution. So I think that now the country just wants to jump forward and really prove evolution. Exactly. Yeah. They really want to prove what they can do as one of the foremost economic powerhouses of the world. So I completely agree. Like I really love the old houses and the old structures and neighborhoods, and it's really hard to see them go, but I also understand why the government's doing that.
Definitely. And they just have the resources and the means to go as fast as they want to go.
For sure.
So if they want to compete, as long as they keep just a couple, I guess I'll be okay. I can be understanding. But jumping back to food, you're doing the feast coming up soon. That's right.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about that, because that seems like the dream. Like food is your dream, and you're able to. So the feast is like a compilation of different chefs around town, or
yes, exactly. It's it actually came from my original project, Shanghai Supper Club, which I started during the time I was still working in advertising. So I'd seen kind of a gap for people to be able to connect. I found that especially among expats and the international community, there wasn't an opportunity to bring people together in a more organic way outside of a bar or a club where you don't get to talk to anyone anyway. You don't mix in a more chilled setting. It's more of aggressive drinking. At least it was at that time. While I was still working in advertising, I started a monthly supper club, which brought 20 people around a table with a new chef in a new location every month. So it was kind of a roving pop-up dinner experience, and people got to meet each other that way. And I made a lot of friends that way.
That's awesome.
And so it eventually grew organically to, we started doing corporate events because companies would ask us to do like a supper club for their opening of their store, or a supper club experience for a media launch, like for a hotel, or team building. Exactly. So public facing or internal. We got a lot of dinner parties just for people's birthdays or anniversaries, or so we were growing. And then I found this great girl, Olivia, who's now my partner.
Olivia. I know Olivia. Yeah.
She's awesome. Super ninja, like great attention to detail, keeps everyone on their toes, yet still manages to have the best time of anyone at a party. It's pretty amazing.
That's great.
She's such a great host. But she was working kind of running the supper club while I was starting Egg back 4 years ago. And we ended up getting all this business, and we were thinking, we can't handle this. We need to hire a team. We need to create a real structure.
Wow. And
so Supper Club evolved into Social Supply, which is now our events agency. So we do full scale production for all manner of events. And the first kind of project I really wanted to focus on was a long-term dream of mine to do a festival that united bunch of chefs on a rooftop somewhere in Shanghai.
Nice.
And this will be our 5th one. And we have, usually in the past, we've done 10 chefs, 3 bartenders, and then a bunch of different beverage suppliers. This year, we've got 15 chefs.
Wow.
We've got 5 bartenders, some of the top in the world, actually. This Steve Schneider from, from Employees Only in New York. He's like amazing, and he's going to be there. Shingo is going to be there. For the chefs, we've got the guys from Jeju Izakaya, who it's a 2-month waiting list to even get into their restaurant. Yeah, it'll be really fun. And tons of beverage suppliers, and it's on a roof in I guess it's central Shanghai. I don't know what to call the Taikoo complex, wherever that is.
Oh, Taikoo. Is that right next to the biggest Starbucks?
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just in the middle of Shanghai.
Yeah, no, that's extremely central.
So, yeah. I don't know what that neighborhood's called. But
I don't know. I would call
Starbucks.
it like, I don't know about Jing'an, but it's on like Jing'an.
Exactly.
Route.
Technically. Yeah. I think everyone just goes by the Starbucks. The Starbucks is so
Starbucks is ridiculous.
Insane.
Have you been?
I have. And apparently it makes more revenue per day than like America's Starbucks combined or something crazy. I need to check that
No way
back.
about that. But
it's crazy.
Well,
People
I mean,
go
my
in
friends
and
and
drop
I,
so much money in there. It's insane.
We were there the other day, and I was guessing, like, I don't even know if this place makes money, but if you're saying they make a ton.
Oh my gosh. So
because it's
much.
just like, how much do you think rent at a place like that costs?
I can't even imagine.
Can't
it's
even
definitely
imagine.
a marketing
Can't even
budget.
imagine.
But if you think
but
about,
that's what I was saying. It's like, I would imagine it's just like you're going to lose money, but the marketing is insane.
Yes.
So, but you're saying, do you know
they
this for?
They actually make money for
they
sure.
They make money for sure.
You go in, each coffee is 40 kwai.
That's true. That's
minimum.
True. It's insane. Like
minimum.
40 to 60 to 70 you can spend.
Exactly. Which is like in American money, that's crazy. You pay $10 for a coffee.
Yeah, it's an experience. Like you're in a museum. You're in a factory.
It's like Willy Wonka.
For anyone who's listening and hasn't been there, this is the biggest Starbucks in the world. And when you go in there, there's like, it feels like you're in a factory of beans flying around. And exactly, Willy Wonka. Feels like Willy Wonka of coffee.
Tubes of beans everywhere. And it's super cool to see the discipline. All the roasters there and all the baristas are super well informed. I mean, it just reflects how far we've come as a city. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, when
J-Mart,
when my friend J-Mart moved here, there wasn't a Starbucks in town.
Yeah.
8 years ago. Maybe when you were even here, it was probably like far and few between.
Exactly.
Far and few between to find a Starbucks.
Exactly.
By 2020 or some ridiculously close date, they plan to have more Starbucks in Shanghai per I don't know, per capita is the right term, but it's just like, so there's going to be so many, they say, like more than New York or more than major cities around the world.
It's crazy. I mean, there's so many people here and they all want that aspirational,
because they weren't coffee drinking people before.
Exactly.
Like they were a tea, and they still are like a primarily tea based. Maybe you know more about this than I do.
I actually think that's an amazing point to touch on. Watching the swing from tea to coffee and now back to tea is the coolest thing in the world to me, because it reflects Chinese consumer confidence. The fact that they came from a tea drinking culture, everyone here grew up drinking tea, and historically it's where, the birthplace of tea as a culture and drinking. And then going toward coffee in, I guess, just after 2010, when people wanted, more Western lifestyle that they see as aspirational and different, and that they can self-actualize on social media by posting pictures of their coffee.
That is such a big part of going to any restaurant in Shanghai.
The Wang Hong lifestyle, But
what did you say? The
Wang Hong?
Wang Hong?
Wang Hong is a term that reflects, it's kind of the internet culture, that aspirational internet culture. Like a Wang Hong Dian is a Wang Hong store. It's something that people go
they
to
have a
take
term for it.
at. Exactly.
No way.
There's
in
a tag
America, we just call that kind of like
Instagrammable.
Yeah, I guess Instagrammable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, Instagram owns that term. That's crazy. Anyway, so Wang Hong
Dian
is
like like an Instagrammable or internet friendly kind of store in some way. So, but people started swinging to coffee, and then it went to third wave coffee, which was the super baristas, very focused on their latte art and their single origins. But now people have gone back to tea, because tea is where it's at. And they have confidence in the Chinese culture, saying, we can reinvent our own culture. We don't have to look to the West.
I think that's beautiful,
super cool.
Because a lot of the times, like, they're just looking to maybe copy the West. Sometime in the beginning, like as you were saying, like in the middle, maybe they're like just experimenting. But the fact that they're coming back to it is so strong, and like a positive message for the future of like truly like bring back their culture.
Exactly.
I think that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But Haiti, I mean, there've been these
those lines.
Exactly.
Those lines at Haiti. Do you think they must pay people in the beginning to stand?
In the beginning,
right.
I think. Yeah.
That my friend has that theory that they just pay people for a while. I heard a crazy story that it's not even a crazy story. This is true. Adidas would pay people to wait in their line when the shoe drops, but they did such a poor job of it. What they would do is they would just hire IEs to stand in line and give them all the same exact shoes.
Yes.
It was so blatant that you were like hiring people to stand in your line, not even your target market to stand in line, giving them all the same exact shoes.
Super weird.
So silly. Like, I don't know. You've seen that, I guess, with Haiti around town?
Haiti for sure. I think there was an ice cream store a couple of years ago that had crazy lines. Most people speculated that they hired some people in the beginning.
Well, you know the one on, is it Wukonglu?
Wukonglu, exactly.
That's the one. Well, they still have crazy lines.
Right, and it's not even the same guys.
Well,
that's the crazy
do you know
part.
what's even crazier is it's the exact same ice cream you can find at local.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like, I think Wagas owns local.
But it's all about that photo moment when your hand is reaching into the kiosk. It's all about it. Wangdian. They call it daka-ing. Daka, which means like a checkbox.
Oh, like
so it's
checking
like you're
off.
checking off locations.
I should make a list on my website.
Exactly.
Of places you can go to.
Definitely, especially for foreigners coming to Shanghai.
Just to like
Everyone's
play the game.
Got a DACA. Exactly.
Yeah, you've heard of Untour before?
Of course. Yeah,
that'd be
Jamie
cool if they
and Kyle,
made. They'd
brilliant.
be more natural to have like a
For
list.
sure, I should recommend. Absolutely.
No, they've invited me to come on a tour this June. I'm going to go to like Shanghai Eats or something.
They're super, super fun. And they do such a good job. All their guides are so knowledgeable. And
that's awesome.
They're right next to Egg and they come into Egg for a coffee on the breakfast tour just to break it up a little bit.
That's cool. Yeah. Give you a little something different.
Yeah.
Do they do mostly local foods, I imagine?
Yes. Almost all local. They've got breakfast tours where you get Shenjianbao and Jianbing, which is the hero of all Shanghai food.
Hero. It was just Jianbing Day the other April 30th.
Exactly.
They sent me the blanket.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's brilliant. Those guys are great. Super fun. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, hopefully you can do like a noodle tour or they do a dumpling tour where you make your own dumplings.
What?
Or
That sounds great.
the sad part, I mean, touching back on what you said, they used to do a night market tour, but now there's so few areas.
That's sad.
Yeah, they can't do it anymore. Really.
I wish they would have maybe just pushed them outside of the city a little more because like, you know, the one in People's Square that was there for a long time. I'm glad I got to experience that. But the only one that I know of that's left is the Science and Tech one.
Yes, which is really far away.
But at least it's still available and it's online too. It's directly in the metro. So if they keep that, it's still like a fun experience, but it is hell to go there.
I know.
I avoid it out. I only go there when like I have a friend in town.
Too hectic. Yeah. I just found that, I don't know, I was recently in Taipei and then also in Thailand and Chiang Mai and seeing their night market culture, it just makes me really sad because I feel like we could have that in Shanghai, but because of certain restrictions and regulations and the need to modernize, I think that the city council just wants to make sure that the streets are clean and safe instead. But I think it'll swing back. I think they're trying to make more food court environments. They're trying to bring back the nightlife
they want
culture.
They want control. Yeah.
But it's recently they published an article that they're going to bring back some of the street seating outside, which is kind of awesome.
Because like, that was John and I were talking and we traced it back to, we would say 2016 when she became president. Like basically they just started to clean it all up. Yeah. So I agree. I hope they can find a way that they're like feel comfortable and like safety is important. So hopefully they can bring that back. I just miss the days of, they have like the little pop-up tables and like the chairs and just like the breeze. It was really nice to have that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you were in Taipei and I was in Taipei recently and I did get a chance to go to the night markets.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the one I went to. Do you remember which ones you went to?
Oof, I went to so many. I ate so much that trip.
Yeah.
I came back. I hadn't eaten a vegetable in a week, I think. It was mostly fried things and bread, which was great.
Yeah. I actually recently, once a week, this week I'm going to have just vegetarian diet once a day. Next week, I'm going to do it 2 times that week.
Nice.
And the next week's after that. So I'm just slowly trying to get on a more vegetarian diet.
That's great.
And I'm starting to do, have you ever heard of like these juice cleanses?
Yeah,
There's one,
Elizabeth is a very good friend of mine. So Lizzie's All Natural.
Lizzie's All Natural. One. Yeah.
And it's actually, you should definitely do hers instead of anyone else's because juice itself is not that beneficial to the body unless you drink it within, I'd say, a couple minutes of it being juiced. And even then it's almost pure sugar.
Right.
So what you should be drinking instead is smoothies, which again, it's great to do it as soon as you can after the vegetables are broken down. But smoothies have enough fiber that moves things through your system.
Okay, that's what I've heard.
Instead of your body just absorbing juice as sugar.
The juice is pretty much just sugar. Exactly. And that's obviously not that good.
Exactly.
The one that I bought, it's called like Body Awakening or something. This one's pretty intense. I'm a little nervous actually because it's the kit that they give you is like some teas and some vitamins and some other stuff. I'm not exactly sure. But to my understanding, all you do is you like boil vegetable broth and you drink that for 5 days with other stuff.
That's good.
So, I mean, yeah, I think it'll be good, but I'm a little nervous. Like, so that's why I'm like trying to prepare. I have a pretty poor diet of like fats and a lot of salt. And so I'm just trying to like turn it around.
I'm the same. I have to go meat free as much as I can during the day. I've actually, Sam Sifton in New York from the New York Times, the editor, he used to write about vegan before 6. So vegan before 6
like
is
years
just
old,
his
or?
way. No, before 6:00 p.m.
Oh,
yeah.
I was like, what?
Also that.
Yeah. Okay. Vegan before 6. That makes sense. That's
exactly.
Cool.
It's a little bit more sustainable. I find that I often have to go out to events or I'm tasting food at the shops or, there's something to do that I have to eat or, I want to eat a really big, rich dinner. And so I try to eat vegan before 6 p.m. And then after 6 p.m. I get a free pass.
So tell me, where are you going to eat this vegan food? Because I struggle to keep up my diet during the day.
That's a really good question. I think there's so many more options now than there used to be, which is great. But at Egg, we have a lot of options. Gwen's Jiang on Yanqinglu, which is right by Egg, is great. Their stuff is super well priced and she has such a diversity of vegetarian and vegan dishes. Let's see, where else? Godly, which is a Chinese restaurant.
I've heard of that. That's like a more sit down, like dinner spot, right?
You can go for lunch as well. It's in kind of a cool, Chinese local environment, but they've got the best dumplings and really good vegan Chinese food. Cool. Quite light and not as oily as most people think of as Chinese.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe with Chinese food is it can be too oily. Like I had these dumplings last night and I just felt like, oh my God. So it's like I want to eat more local Chinese food. I think I just need to know the places to go because if you go to kind of like a small Shanghainese spot, you're going to get 20 kwai dumplings, but you're going to get like this heartburn and this like stomach.
Right.
So you're saying Godly, I should try it.
Yeah, Godly for sure. Shanghainese is quite rich. I think typically it's a little bit sweeter and a little bit oilier than most Chinese local, different area foods. But if you eat more northern food, there are a lot lighter options. Also, like the steamed and boiled dumplings instead of fried dumplings. So a lot of the northern style, they do more like steamed and boiled instead of fried.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I like about the way China does food is you can kind of break it down by region. Because in America, we don't have that. There's no culture when it comes to where your food is coming from. But in China, like Sichuan food, like Dongbei and Shanghainese and it's
amazing that all around the world, not that many people know about the diversity of the food.
No,
here
I mean, I didn't know before I came here. So I definitely don't blame other people for not knowing. And that's why they say when you come to China that the food is so much different than Chinese food back home. Back home, that's not even Chinese food. That's like westernized. But that's what's cool about, I think, America is like they do westernized stuff and it does create something new at least.
Absolutely. It's like a third culture version of what it is, which is really interesting.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite places in America? Like states?
To eat
in terms of food
locations.
If you want to, because I guess you can break it down by location. Just people don't say that.
For sure.
In China, they say like, "Oh, we're gonna have like Shanghainese food or Sichuan."
Well, I think that they have a much longer history with such a large geographical area, and things were so separated that cultures could evolve in their own little vacuums. And so all around China, they had such different developing cultures in a more vertical way. Whereas America, we're so young as a country.
Exactly.
So
crazy young.
And it's such a mixing pot. They say salad bowl, whatever analogy. But I think people came from all over and made a culture so quickly that we haven't had the time to develop as many regional cuisines.
Yeah.
But for sure, I think the Northeast and the South and the Southwest and Texas as a whole.
I've never been to Texas.
There are lots of different regional cuisines in America, but I don't think that they have the same history and depth as Chinese.
No. Speaking of the vacuums that you were mentioning about China, I think it's interesting that, every city has their own dialect, right? And like I found out that, maybe 200 years ago, someone like certain regions, even if you're only like 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers away, they actually couldn't communicate.
Yeah.
Because the dialects, as you said, like vertical, that was such a good way to like describe it. Like there was no mix between the cultures. So right now, I think they're trying to unify China a lot by making like Mandarin the #1 language.
Yeah, I think since the 40s, it's been taught in all schools and trying to make sure that there's unified communication across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been earlier than that, but the 40s, I know that there was a big campaign toward that.
Yeah, I'm trying to study Chinese and it's not easy.
It's tough. It's tough. I wish that I'd been able to study it before I arrived, because so many friends who are here, they had so much dedicated time to study.
Yeah.
And it's such an intense language, and it's so much memorization that having the dedicated time in school, or, even coming here for university for 3 to 6 months and learning here, I think that would have been so beneficial. My Chinese, I just picked up in the kitchen. And so it's very pidgin and very limited, but I do my best.
Yeah, me too. So I'm studying at Jiaotong, kind of full time right now, but I do so much other stuff. That's my mistake, is I'm trying to do other stuff while studying. I should just study, but it's so hard for me to stay still and do just one thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could probably relate to that, because you do so much stuff. Okay, to my knowledge, you have egg, bird, and then bird, is there one next to it?
Bitter. Exactly.
Bitter. So you own, those are your 3 babies.
Yeah, 3 babies.
And then you have feast.
Which is under the umbrella of social supply.
And then there's social, is this all under social supplies umbrella?
No,
or?
so social supply, I guess it's 2 streams for me, which I have the restaurants, which, I've got 3 at the moment, and I'm looking to be doing some more this summer, which is really exciting. And then also social supply. So 2 major streams of work for me, but social supply is such a diversity. I mean, any event production agency, that you're doing so many different kinds of events for so many different kinds of clients, so many different scales. We do our own events and client events, which is a little bit different than most other agencies.
Yeah,
so, but for us, it allows us to do more creative, interesting things. So Feast being one of them, Shanghai Supper Club still going on. We also do, we did Live Room last night, which we do about every quarter. It's a live music immersive night. Last night we had 3 different artists play against screenings of films that inspired them. So they did live interpretations of the film, which was really, really cool.
Say that again. Where was this?
We always do it in a secret location. This one was at Yongfu Elite.
Okay.
So it's in this really cool old vintagey, I guess 1920s Shanghai mansion. And it's in this crazy overgrown garden. And we set up a screen in the bar.
Whoa.
And we had 3 different films screening with 3 different electronic artists playing against them.
Whoa, that's super interesting.
Super fun.
Yeah, I'd love to come check that out. When's the next one? Do you have it scheduled or?
Yeah, we do. We usually do it out through our social supply chat. We either have an official WeChat account or through Instagram.
Sweet.
But we do the social supply has Shanghai Supper Club, Live Room, and then Cocktail Cinema, which is an immersive film screening as well, paired with cocktails from one of Shanghai's best bartenders.
Wow.
So we just did Fight Club. We did it in Oboro, which is an amazing boxing gym. So that was really fun. And Steve Schneider, again, he's been helping us out a lot recently.
That sounds awesome. I want to check that out.
He dressed up as Tyler Durden and was mixing up some cocktails. So it was really fun.
Damn. Yeah, you stay busy.
Lots of stuff. But that's it. I mean, I think Shanghai really gave me the opportunity to let all of that come to the fore. I think when I was living in London, I had work, which was agency work, and then obviously social life on the side. But living in Shanghai, when I first moved over, I was so inspired by the amount of people who had personal projects, passion projects, or they turned it into full time. And I think that there's such an incredible energy here. And everyone thinks, if I can dream it, I can do it. I just have to work my butt off and get there. And that's been super inspiring to me.
I completely agree. There's something that makes your goals seem so achievable here. Like for me, I mean, I started doing so much of my own stuff, like Shanghai Observed, and like doing t-shirts and e-commerce and starting this podcast. And I have skate classes that I like have coaches do. And for me, I think that's hard for some people to like, but once it clicks that you realize you can do anything, it makes you go further. So like that's for you. What I got from your story is you were like, it was an evolution of how your stuff came to be. Like you just started doing the supper. What's it called? The
Shanghai Supper Club.
Shanghai Supper Club. So it sounded like you just started out kind of small and eventually it just like got so much bigger. Like you didn't plan to have this big goal. So I think that's something that I want to share with this podcast with people is that like first, if you're trying to achieve a dream, it maybe isn't the best idea to have this major goal. It's about having like smaller goals and achieving those and keeping to go forward. Because that's what I get from your story. And I find it so inspiring. And I hope other people can kind of take that away.
Absolutely. I think it's all about figuring out what you're really excited about, like your passion and what, something that makes you tick, and then just pursuing that. And you're right. You don't have to have a plan. You don't have to have a business plan or some grand scheme where you get to the end goal.
Exactly.
It's more about just following what you love and opportunities present themselves as you go.
Definitely. Definitely. And this is something I touched upon in my last podcast, and I want to say it every podcast. It's like being in the now and appreciating the journey and like the like right now, like I have a goal for this podcast to get to 100, but I'm so happy on number 3 right now, just like doing it. So like I've already won. I've already won the goal. Even if I don't make it to 100, like right now I'm happy and I want to keep this going. So I think it's about like the journey is so important. If you're not loving the journey, you should probably reconsider like how you're approaching that journey. For example, with Chinese, I'm not loving it. So I'm trying to figure out, maybe there's a different way I can figure out how to learn it because I want to learn it. But right now with me trying to do all this other stuff, it's not exactly sticking.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to.
I think that's a good mentality though, that even with, I mean, optimizing along the journey and, you know, looking at yourself critically and thinking, if I'm not loving it, then how can I make it better? But B, I think going back to the first thing is celebrating all your small wins.
Definitely.
I think right now we're so critical on ourselves, and especially with social media, you see how far people go and everyone idealizes themselves and what they've accomplished in their social media, right? Like you're not going to put out a picture of something that's like a halfway point. You're only going to do the finished product. And so I think that now there's a lot more pressure on us because we're just exposed to how much other people can do around us and the speed at which it can happen sometimes. And I think it's really important to just celebrate all the little wins along the way and pat yourself on the back for how much effort you put in every day.
Definitely.
Super important.
Definitely. This is something that my girlfriend Fulden and I were discussing quite a bit. Like she gets overwhelmed, as do I, and I think many others, by the success of other people on Instagram. Like, for example, she showed me this young girl, she's like 13, and she has like 1.6 million followers on Instagram, and she's like a world conservationist. Like she just like, and she has Asperger's as well.
Wow.
So her story is so incredible and so monumental.
Yeah.
When you inevitably compare it to yourself, it becomes hard to focus on, wait, like I'm my own person. I don't need to like compare myself to every single individual on Instagram or on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I try and think every day about, you're trying to beat yourself. You're not trying to beat anyone else. If you want success,
put it in context.
Yeah. And you want mental health as well, because I have friends right now that have like had to take a month off of work or just like completely stop because it gets so
burnout.
So yeah, you get burnt out.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, it seems like you are very like, you got your head on your shoulders, you're just going. So like anything you do.
I mean, it always looks better on the outside, right?
Exactly. It does. It does.
But no, I think that I actually went through a really important change last year. I think I was a little bit overwhelmed myself around the time when I opened my 2 new restaurants last spring. And I took the month of August actually away from Shanghai to just take stock, think about what I want to do in the future and really reassess where I was at the time and where I want to go. And during that time, I think I felt that way as well, that it can be really overwhelming. And I actually read something about how it's the house next door problem. So originally when we were growing up, right, you didn't have internet, or you had limited internet, you didn't have as much social media. So your family, and this is all in the past, your family would always compare their success against the house next door or the biggest house on the block.
Yeah.
And whatever the biggest house on the block was, that's where you felt like, okay, that seems achievable. That's where I want to go.
Yeah.
But now the internet has blown open our neighborhood where the house next door is a mansion in LA.
Or Kim Kardashian's house.
Exactly. Right. And it's got to be big enough to fit her butt. So, so it's, I mean, what you're comparing yourself against is totally unrealistic for where you are. And so it can actually be aversely, beneficial to you, where it's more pressure than it is motivation. And so taking time away from social media, being aware of how it affects you when it most affects you, and taking time away from it then, I think that's really important. So I know that at nighttime, if I'm just flicking through right before I go to bed, I'm a little bit tuned out and it doesn't have as much effect on me.
So right before bed is okay for you to like relax
personally,
with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I try not to take anything too seriously or, freak out if there's something I see on there that's super exciting or that I could be jealous of.
Yeah,
but
FOMO.
If it's during the day when I'm in work mode, I can find it very oppressive and I can find it very demotivating instead of motivating.
Definitely.
So I've just realized for myself, I go on about once a week and I do at the end of a day when I'm tired and it's the best time for me to be on social media. So I think it's really about setting restrictions for yourself and figuring out when you're most affected by it and avoiding those times.
That's very wise, is knowing yourself and like, okay, at this time of the day, if I go on it might ruin the rest of my day in a sense. It's sad, but it is a reality how much this stuff can affect individuals. Sure. It's tough.
And especially here, I think with WeChat Moments as well, it's just a lot of content every day.
Yep.
There's so much content that we absorb every day. They say that we absorb more content now in an hour than a lot of our ancestors in the past would have absorbed over the course of a lifetime.
I believe
just
that.
The amount we read and hear and see and listen to. And I've turned off Moments. I go on about once a week again, and I just post out. And it's all out.
Yeah, I don't even have the addiction of Moments. My addiction is Instagram. Like
it's hard not to be addicted.
Yeah, that's my addiction. So I've taken steps I just schedule posts now. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time, and they'll go out, check DMs once a day, schedule it, and just try and keep it easy.
It's good. It's good to be disciplined.
Definitely, discipline is super important to like mental health and physical health and all that. But what you said about like how many advertisements we've seen, like the stat that I heard last in college when I was like 2014, 2013 was that we see on average like 3,000 ads a day.
Wow.
And that was in 2014.
That's crazy.
Before like social media was definitely booming, but like now it has boomed.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much the typical person sees in ads a day now. It must be like 9 or 10,000 because people don't realize how easy it is to see an ad, and like you don't even realize you saw it.
Absolutely.
So okay, yeah.
Especially
so your background is marketing.
Yeah,
more so. Yeah. Well, not more so, but like your background is marketing, so you have a big insight to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that's interesting to me is that, and I actually left the industry slightly before this became a huge issue, but now what you're saying is that people, they don't even know that they're being fed ads.
Definitely.
It's the integration of content into daily life where people have sponsored content and they previously, I guess before 2 years ago, they didn't have to declare whether or not they were sponsored.
This was a big issue with like Fuck Jerry and the Fat Jewish and that kind of stuff.
It's super important that everyone's transparent about this stuff. I think that you can still stand up for products you believe in, and that's cool as a influencer or whatever, but it's just all of the saturation of ads. I don't know. It's actually interesting because living here, so I do speak Chinese, but I can't read Chinese.
Right.
And it's changed the way that I spend every day. I think
that's good for me too. I see where you're going.
When I go back to America, I'm so overwhelmed with content because I can read every single thing happening around me. Whereas here, the billboards, the online ads, a lot of those things just bounce off.
I never thought about it like that. Okay, so like I feel the same way. I'm not like internalizing like subconsciously all this stuff that I'm reading, because like in America, you'll read an ad, and even though you're not actually paying attention, you're spending brain power to read that ad.
It's just passive.
Here, I can barely read Chinese. I'm studying. Maybe I should stop studying. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, when you read these, and in China, it's just insane because like when you open up Taobao, when you open up apps here in China, you'll get a 3-second ad. Yeah. When you open up Weimar, you'll get a 3-second ad. To me, it's just a visual. Yeah. But to the people here, they're internalizing so much information.
Exactly. And I think it's an interesting lesson. It's, how can we make, if for me, all of that is passive, where it's usually you'd be passively absorbing it, but here it just bounces off me. How could I take that? And when I am in America or in another English speaking, English reading, writing country, how can I try to make myself more impervious to all of these ads and all this content? But it's pretty nuts now. I mean, we're just exposed to so much.
What about Thailand? What kind of ads they got over there?
Thailand was sweet. Yeah, just got back. It was a very quick 3-day trip. They had, I'm trying to think of the ads. Again, I wasn't reading it, so I wasn't spending much time.
So it's not in English over there.
They're not in English. There are some English words, but a lot of them are in Thai, which I really like, that it's not all anglicized or internationalized. The Thai have a really funny sense of humor. So the few times that I did see TV at a bar or, billboards, they're always really humorous. It's the same in India. Every time I've traveled to India, they just have a really good sense of humor. The advertising from India is always amazing.
It's extremely friendly.
Yes.
Like probably the friendliest place.
Super friendly.
Thai also.
Yeah.
That's cool how like maybe culture translates to advertising.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that sounds kind of obvious.
It always reflects it, and even leads culture now. I mean, I think with the advertising during the time I was in the industry, it was the first time that it had really started leading culture and becoming that meme culture that we're so familiar with now. So it's back in the day, Wyden and Kennedy, they did all those crazy Skittles ads, and we did a lot of the T-Mobile pop-up flash mobs. And a lot of those became part of culture and influenced culture in such a big way.
Wow.
And it was the first time that advertising, had really become part of culture, but so seeded into culture and so seeded into our daily lives that you didn't really know what was advertising, what was just...
I mean, that is the case.
Yeah, now
with that
that's the
Fuck
way
Jerry
it is.
stuff, like when he was putting stuff on his Instagram and the Fat Jewish, like you don't know you literally don't know what's advertising and not. Like at least when you see a commercial on TV and it's in between your program, you know it's it's in context. But now the lines have been blurred.
Exactly.
It's influencers. Well, like, that's so interesting that the lines have been blurred so much that you can't even tell.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I wish I had a solution for that. I'm happy not to be working in the industry anymore.
Yeah. I still dabble.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, my degree is in marketing.
Okay,
So
I
I went to
didn't know that.
school for that. Did some marketing internships.
I think it's lifestyle, right? I mean, now it's so intrinsic with our daily lives that having a background in marketing is super smart. And I feel really lucky to have had it myself for any of my future endeavors because it gives you really good perspective. And I was a planner, so I was a strategist. So I had to look at what the market had already, where it needed to go, what a consumer wanted, what a brand needed to say, and how to fit all those pieces together. So I feel like it's given me a really strong background to be able to communicate to audiences now, even in food and beverage and events.
Right. For me, the best takeaway is I've learned a lot about like digital marketing and, networking and kind of promoting events, I would say. But like, for example, my experience working at Push, the best thing that I got away from it was probably like knowing how to do so many different aspects of a media house. And that's what I think has really helped me is like, I know how to edit. I know how to talk to the client to get the money. I know how to make them happy. I know how to like be on set. I kind of know how to direct. I kind of know how to do everything. And that led me towards my project management role with them. And that's so important that you take advantage of internships as you're growing and
especially in startups, because you get to wear so many hats. I think
that's
in a bigger place, you only have a very specialized role, but being in a smaller company it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. What kind of internships did you do? Like, so you started in London. Are you from America? Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from the States. Yeah. I was born in New Jersey and was raised between New Jersey, Jersey and New York and Wyoming, actually.
I'm from Long Island. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I remember actually the first time we met. You can do the accent then. You nailed it.
If I get drunk, it comes out.
Oh, God.
I'm so thankful I don't have it, though. I don't know if I have it. People tell me I do not have the Long Island accent.
Maybe it comes out a little bit. I usually just say I'm from New York because I want to avoid the inevitable conclusion of Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Snooky.
Yeah, that's easy.
That's not exactly the lifestyle I grew up with. But
So you grew up in Jersey and then college, or?
I went to St. Andrews in Scotland, actually.
Oh, wow.
Super random, that's how I got to the UK. So I was doing a year abroad, like a 1-year course, just as I kind of wanted to take a gap year, but I felt like, in America, we don't really have a gap year culture. So I was going to do an academic one. And so I went to St. Andrews because it was in Europe and it was amazing access to travel.
Yeah.
But then I just fell in love with it. So I stayed for a 4-year program.
So you did full college.
Yeah.
Scotland?
In Scotland, yeah. Wow. It's super random.
What's
St. Andrews is great though.
St. Andrews. What was the campus like? Were you by the ocean or
yes,
were you?
I actually had no idea. I didn't learn about it at all before I arrived. So I rocked up with my suitcases and it was on this incredible beach, like really beautiful pier sticking out into the ocean.
Sounds
old
like a dream.
Churches, ruins from 1100, Yeah, it was crazy. It was like everything on that campus was older than our country. So it was amazing. I feel so lucky to have had that experience. And it was such an international crowd as well. So many Brits, but also Italians and Swedes. And, it was just a really diverse and interesting group. So it was a really fun college experience.
Yeah, I can't really imagine because in America, it's so focused on partying and
I definitely had that.
Well, you definitely had that, but yeah.
But it's more dinner parties and house parties.
A little more mature, maybe.
Exactly. Not so much with the dorms.
Yeah.
You have houses or halls for 1 year. And then after that, everyone moves out. So, you're dealing with renting houses, electrical bills, doing your own laundry. You're doing all that from the age of 18, 19. So, it's a good thing. It pushes you on the fast track.
Yeah. I think that's super. This is a trend that I'm spotting amongst my successful friends that they've spent time abroad and becoming more cultured internationally. Like, for example, Eric, that was the last guy, he went to college in Portland, but over the course of his college experience, he did like many programs in China as he was going.
Very cool.
He is so lucky that from like 6th grade, his school, he was learning Mandarin.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
from
so
6th
prescient.
grade.
That's amazing.
So by the time he gets to college, he has this opportunity where his college is super internationally like connected. And he had friends in Moscow learning courses in Russian.
Wow.
He was learning like courses here in Nanjing. And that's when I met him like 3 years ago when he would visit Shanghai. So yeah, it sounds like the more international you can get, especially with how like globalized the world is becoming,
Exactly.
it will be only a major benefit.
Exactly. I think people are doing it more and more. If I even go back, and we had a high school alumni dinner here the other day, which is so crazy that there are 10 to 12 alumni from my high school here in town in Shanghai. And we had an alumni dinner, and one of the representatives of my school was in town, and they were telling us about how many international programs they're doing with the students as young as 14. And I think how amazingly lucky that is for those kids to be able to have that exposure so young.
Definitely.
It really opens your eyes, and it makes you a more tolerant and aware human. I think
that comes back to the idea of the house next door.
Yeah.
Once you realize your backyard is the world, like you're going to be a lot more thoughtful and maybe open-minded.
Definitely.
And that's
because hopefully you see that big mansion, but you also see,
you see the other
slums
stuff
around the corner. And that's a big thing. Like having that perspective is really important.
Definitely super important. All right, Camden, we just did like an hour. This was amazing.
Oh, what? That was so fast.
yeah, that was so good. Can you tell me one more time about Feast before we wrap this up?
Sure. The plug.
The plug.
Feast is coming up on May 24th to 26th. It's going to be 3 days for the first time ever. We're really excited. On Friday, we're doing a preview supper club. Saturday, we have a chef competition and a bartender battle. And on Sunday, we've got a brunch pop-up. But for all of the 3 days, we've got tons of chefs and bartenders and amazing beverage brands up on the roof. So yeah, Taiku Hui. You can get tickets via WeChat. Maybe you'll blast out about it.
I've been invited. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I'm going to be there. You guys can maybe catch me. I'm going to bring some Shanghai Observer stickers. And if you come, I'm going to hand them out.
Oh yeah. Let's make combo ones.
Yeah. That'd be so cool. Yeah. All right. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank
Talk
you
to you
for
later.
having me. Thank you.
Bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Boom. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this podcast valuable, please subscribe to my channel, turn on bell notifications, and like the video. There are also many other ways you can support my show. You can review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you may happen to listen to it. You can share it with your friends, blog about it, discuss it on your own podcast, or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description below. On there, you will find subscriber-only content, like my Ask Me Anything episodes. Not safe for work content, Instagram will not let me post. Bonus questions from many of my interviews, and much more. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats at soundcloud.com/estoric, ESTORIC. Okay, that's it for now. Peace.